On today's episode of the Pipeline Podcast, Kevin Feige gives an update on Iron Man in the MCU, brand new first look trailers for 2024 movies and TV shows, and we're finally going to be discussing the final season of Doom Patrol. Let's get into it. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Pipeline Podcast. I'm your host today, Daren Mcclimans, and we're here joined once again by the one, the only, the fabulous, the amazing Adriel. Adriel, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Christmas time, let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
It's great to have you on again, man. It's been a minute. We haven't talked since summer.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I'm glad to be back. I can't wait.
100%. I don't know about you. Fall just didn't happen. It feels like we went from summer, and I guess it's different because you're in a hotter place, but it went from summer to just winter. Like it skipped over Halloween
and flat out skipped over it. Literally just last week, it was like 80 degrees outside, which is like normal for down here. And then what we consider cold is literally anything under 60, and it's currently 62 right now. And this morning it was like 57, so it was like a rude awakening.
57 sounds awesome. If I can have 57 all winter, I'd be like, bet, let's go. We're doing like -7, and we're like, this is not that bad.
I guess I have no reason to complain.
Last time we talked about Blue Beetle, which ended up being one of my favorite superhero movies of 2023. And we said, I was like, when Doom Patrol comes back, maybe we can get you back on here. We can talk about that show, because that's a show we both enjoy as well. A show that does not feel like it's over. Like I think Doom Patrol is a really weird show because it feels like it just started, like it just began, but it also feels like it's been going on for like 10 years. Like it's just such a weird show that just exists in my brain somehow.
100%. It's just like the journey that all of the characters went through. It feels like it has been taken forever to get it out.
Yeah.
You look back and it's like, it's literally only been 4 seasons.
Yeah, I looked it up and it's only like 46 episodes or something. It was like, really? It feels like it's been a lot longer of a journey.
Right? Yeah.
And maybe that's because I don't mean to jump into like the talk like too early, but like I wonder if that's because these characters have lived like hundreds of years. Like some of these people have been around for forever, so maybe that's like a thing on their part, being like, you have seen this whole journey, you've spent hundreds of years with Rita, so maybe that's what they're going for. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, not to dive into it a little bit too much, but definitely I think that is a point that we're gonna bring up a lot once we get there.
Yes, I'm very excited to talk about. It's such an interesting show to also talk about, because it is so unlike any of the other DC TV shows. Like, people compare it to Legends a lot and how they're very similar in kind of their style and their tone. But even then, I feel like there's nothing quite like Doom Patrol. So I'm going to be very excited to kind of hop in and talk about it.
Same.
Before we do jump really into the episode, last time I had you on here, you had left us off on a little bit of a teaser, and you had said something.
Other than that, I am working on something, but it's like still not done yet. So I'll come back and promote it later in the future. Oh wow! You even brought the whole.
I pulled up previously on. I know, it's crazy.
Wow.
Since you had done that, you had launched a podcast, right? And am I safe to assume that's what you were teasing there?
100%. Yeah. We were still in like the planning stage of what to do with our podcast when that came out. And since then we've released like pretty much an entire season's worth of episodes of this podcast. We uploaded a new episode last Friday, and now this coming Friday we're releasing the season finale of season 1 of Problematic Behavior. So that's exciting, definitely.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. It's a podcast that, you know, I will say I am a little bit behind on it because there are so many podcasts out there, and like these episodes are very long, but it's a really great podcast. Like I when I'm listening to it, I really do feel like I'm listening to two people just kind of having fun, and two people that like really like each other, have a conversation and have a good time. So if you guys have not checked it out, go do so. 5 stars, all that fun stuff. Great podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, and again, it's great to have you on here to talk about again some really interesting stuff. And like one of my favorite segments that you have on your show is that your girlfriend doesn't know anything about like superheroes and stuff, and you have to make her try to guess what they are. And it's like all of these characters that she's creating, I just want to see now. Like, let me see all these crazy characters.
Stay tuned. That's all I can say about that. Stay tuned.
Another tease. Gosh darn it. We got to pull this clip up in 5 years. Kai Rex in the chat. They said, bye, Doom Patrol. Bye-bye. Kai said, there's so many podcasts now, it's kind of insane. Yeah, there are.
True. Yeah, that was definitely one of our worries of like when we started this podcast. We're just like, we're kind of worried that we're going to be like literally everyone else. But I feel like we do a decent enough job.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I've never seen... I mean, you guys talk about a lot of the things that other people have talked about for sure, but you do a lot of these segments. I was like, yeah, I've never seen someone do that exact thing. So I think you're doing a good job. Yeah. Unlike this show where it's literally like every other geek podcast.
Hey, don't knock yourself down. Yeah, this podcast is great.
Thank you. It is a thing though. Like every time you reach out to someone, it's like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? I know that's kind of cringe, but like you want to do it. You know what I mean? Like everyone has a podcast now, and I think it is kind of looked down upon, but they're fun. It's fine.
They're fun. It's just there is a little bit of a stigma because of the fact of it has been. The whole point of these podcasts now is like it's been so easily accessible, anyone can do it. But then that's also the problem where anyone can do it. People
when everyone has a podcast or any of them is special. Yeah, 100%.
Exactly.
What up, Darth Chosen? Hope you're doing well. Let's kind of jump into our main topics though. We have some interesting stuff to talk about, so let's jump into some headlines. On the Disney side of things, you're currently like rewatching Disney movies, right? That's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, specifically just the animated ones.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean that's really fun. I mean, you know, I'm a massive like Disney fan, so it's been really fun to see your journey. Maleficent 3 is in the works at Disney, according to Angelina Jolie. Are you a fan of these movies? Have you seen them at all? Do you have like any kind of thing with them?
I have not seen Maleficent at all. I know that that specific character has like a really strong fan base for some reason, and I think I just watched the movie that she appears in. So seeing her, I'm like, okay, sure. I mean, I kind of get why she's kind of this big famous villain, just because it's one of those things that I think a lot of early Disney movies have, where there's so much story potential that they literally tease within these characters, but they don't, because like there's only a short amount of time for this story to go through. But I do understand, like, funny enough, I think Maleficent's actually one of the rare characters where I'm like, I would have totally accepted seeing a whole movie about her, because I think she does have a lot of backstory where it could make sense, where she can get like her entire trilogy, her own franchise if she wants.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's kind of been like the gold standard for me, where this is kind of what I want them all to be. Like, instead of just rebooting the franchise, I want to see, why don't you grow out the franchise? Why don't you take a character and see where they haven't gone before and do that? And I think most of the time when they've kind of gone that route, they've done better. I think the first one of these is like genuinely like a good movie. Like, I think it's really good. I think the second one's hot garbage, but I would be interested to see what another one would look like. Chat, if you guys if there are any mods in the house, if you see anyone pop up like that who have been commenting, please take care of that. Not sure where they're getting that information. Yeah. Are there any other Disney characters that you would like to see kind of explored in this format? Like Cruella came out a couple years ago. That's getting a sequel as well, which I'm excited for because I did like that movie as well. Is there like a Disney character or like a Disney villain that you think would fit this treatment?
I think just because of the fact that I am obsessed with The Princess and the Frog, like that's easily my favorite Disney movie of all time. I would say I would love to see Dr. Facilier in his own movie.
Yeah.
Just so you can like deal with the whole voodoo and stuff like that. Like, how did he get into this voodoo? How, like, what's the culture there?
Sure.
It's just that because he was like a legend. Like whenever he was nicknamed the Shadow Man. So that's what people called him in the neighborhood, was the Shadow Man. So it's like, okay, how did he get up to that? Like, how did he have that kind of legacy already built up?
Yeah, that'd be sick. I think a movie like that would almost be a disservice under Disney though, because I feel like that would be such a good like rated R like horror movie almost, seeing how he got into like the dark arts and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of Disney properties, I feel like. Like, there's so many characters. So it was like, Disney wouldn't go far enough with this property to make it as cool as I think it would be.
True, but I feel like sometimes they do get a little bit creative with it. Sometimes. Like, the fact that you have a character like Cruella, who's like, the reason why she's a villain is because of, like, just animal cruelty.
Killing dogs,
Right, like, the fact that they kind of handled that well without having you literally see her be mean to a dog, or at least, like, to that extent.
Sure.
I feel like I think they got it. They can handle it.
100%. I've always wanted I always wanted a Jafar movie or show. I think he'd be really, really cool. Especially with what they were kind of leading to in like inside the like live action movie, where they really adapt that Jafar was also a street rat. Like, he came from nothing, he had nothing, and he rose up to power. Like, that's so fascinating. Like, show us how he learned his magic.
I think there was a direct-to-DVD sequel when Aladdin first came out, like the animated version. There was Aladdin 2, like Return to Jafar.
Yeah.
And I think they kind of not dive into like his backstory, but they really made him a main character in that sequel.
Sure. Yeah.
So they could have easily just adapted that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that movie's very good. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm actually going to be very curious what they do with the sequel to that movie, because I don't know if that's even still happening. Apparently it is, but we've heard nothing for years. If they're going to adapt that movie, or if they're going to do something completely fresh and original. Kai Rex said, I actually enjoyed the movies for the most part, even though the second movie title is highly misleading. I don't even remember what it like. I remember just being so disappointed with the sequel.
Yeah, I don't even remember the second title.
No, what was it? Hold on. I'm on go off script here for a second.
The Maleficent to the Squeakquel? I don't know.
What was it called? It's been so long. What? And that was only like 2019. I honestly did not think they were going to get a third movie, because I didn't think it did very well. Mistress of Evil. Okay, that's fair. Oh, no, that's 2. Or that's the first one. What's the second one called? Mistress of Evil. Okay, it is. All right.
Oh, okay. Mistress of Evil.
So I guess wasn't evil, I guess.
Right. Okay. That's basically what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Okay. So she just it's fine. Alrighty. Let's move along. MCU stuff. Last time we talked, you were kind of phasing out of the MCU a little bit, right? Are you? How are you currently? Are you back in it at all? Are you kind of on that same path that you were last time?
I'm back and forth. There's one day where I want to be, but there's other days where I'm like, no, it's time to move on. I still haven't watched Loki season 2, even though everyone and their mother is like obsessing over it right now. So
good.
I don't know. Maybe if I have enough courage, I will kind of do my own little MCU rewatch, kind of the same way I'm doing like an Arrowverse one right now. So we'll see.
Just do that?
Yes, but no. Like I did an MCU rewatch like years ago.
Okay.
Like it was like right when the first like Phase 4 movie was about to come out. but things have changed so much since then. And there's also
Sure.
still a lot of MCU projects I still haven't even watched.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think you're currently in the same spot most of the MCU fan base is, where every project is like, Marvel's in shambles, it's the worst thing ever, and then a good thing happens, like, they're back, baby, Marvel's back, let's go. And you know what, I'm not there, I don't think, because I do just love the journey that is the MCU, and I think that's why I love the Arrowverse as well, because it was like, it didn't
right.
really matter ultimately if they were good or bad. It was like the journey I got to go on, talking about the projects and talking with people and experiencing that good and the bad. So I feel like I'm not there yet, but I am definitely at a
Right.
point where it's like, Marvel, fix your stuff. Like, you're not that far gone yet. You can, but like I'm still in a place where it's like, yeah, you need to do some fixing up if you want to move forward and be successful as a studio and as a company, as a franchise. So did you remember, I don't know, did you see all of the like Variety articles that came out like about a month ago that was very much bashing on the MCU? They were very like, they had a bias when they were writing it. There was a lot of things. It was like Iron Man and Captain America, they're all coming back, and there's problems with Kang, and we're doing Doctor Doom. A bunch of head stuff had come out. The internet freaked out. Did you see any of that stuff?
I saw it all, and the moment I heard that, I was like, BS. I know it came from Variety, and they're a trustworthy source. I still called BS on all of it. I was
Yeah.
like, no, it's not happening. It's just not happening.
I would not be shocked if Robert Downey does come back at some point. I don't think Secret Wars is that place. I don't think, at least coming back from the dead. I could see a world where maybe he does come back as like a variant, as some other version of Iron Man. But according to Kevin Feige, they will not resurrect Iron Man in the MCU. And I feels like what Kevin Feige was saying is kind of what all the fans were saying, is like, it took so much time and effort to get us to that point where he can make that sacrifice. Don't make that in vain. It feels like that's kind of where he's at. A lot of fans are like, BS Kevin Feige, you're going to bring him back. Some people are like, no, that you shouldn't. I don't know. It's been kind of a weird time. Do you think that we're ever going to bring back the Iron Man character or Robert Downey Jr. as a whole?
I think Kai Rex just commented, and he pretty much just like took my thoughts and into the comment where he says, like, when Kevin Feige says they won't resurrect Iron Man, I take it as they won't resurrect that version of Iron Man. I think they will bring him like another variant. That's what I was thinking. Like, Kevin Feige loves to play those kind of like words in games. I was like, okay, so he's bringing back like Tony Stark then. Like, I could see Robert Downey Jr. being like, okay, I'm back. I'm not putting on the suit. Like, I'm not doing that kind of stuff. Like, no. But yeah, I totally see him coming back as like a variant or stuff like that. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he just like never shows up again. Because I mean, Robert Downey Jr. doesn't need it. Like, flat out,
no.
He does not need this role at all. Like, financially, he could never work a day in his life again, and he'll be fine. And even if he was focusing on like the career side of things, I think Oppenheimer really kind of helped him be taken seriously in different roles. So I feel like, I think Robert Downey Jr. is set from now on. If he ever comes back, there's got to be, it's literally just like a very brief cameo and then move on.
Yeah, I'm going to be very curious, because I don't know, like Secret War, like there's two parts of my brain where it's like, don't bring any of the new people back anytime soon, right? Let all these new people come in and take the spotlight. But then there's that part of my brain that's like, but you got Tobey Maguire, you got Hugh Jackman back. How cool would it be to have like Hugh Jackman and Tobey and Robert and Chris Evans all in one shot? And then it's like, no, don't think like that. That's so fan servicey of my brain.
Right.
I know people still want your like Tom Cruise Iron Man cameo somewhere. I guess that would be okay. I don't know. I still don't get.
I really could care less about Tom Cruise being Iron Man. Like,
I've never got it. Yeah, I've never got the want or need for that. Because he like almost got it, right. That's what like that's like
30% of a lot of these fan castings now, where it's like, oh my god, they were rumored to almost have it. How about we give them a second chance? And it's just like, what's done is done. Please move on.
Well, that's the whole like Nicolas Cage as like Superman thing. It's like people are going to freak out when he shows up, and it's like, but half the people don't even know he almost had a Superman movie. Like, will people care?
Exactly.
Like,
Right.
Like us nerds
found
are like,
out-
oh, that's cool, but most people would be like, why is Nicolas Cage Superman? What the hell?
Right.
Like,
When I saw that happen, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. That's a reference that only 2 people are gonna get. Like, way
Yeah.
way to go.
yeah, I don't know. It's a weird time to be a comic book fan, I think, because we're in this current,
Definitely.
and I think we're heading towards the end of the like constant cameos and stuff. Like, I think once I think DC's done for a while. Like, I think James Gunn is in a perfect spot where we're just doing standard superhero movies again, or not standard, but like we're making real superhero movies again, and not just multiverse after multiverse. I think the MCU has a couple more years of that. We have Deadpool coming up, and then Secret Wars, but I do think we're hopefully within the next 3 years we can get back to more standard superhero content, which is what I'm kind of
Definitely.
excited
I think
for.
this, which is shocking to me because I was always interested in this multiverse kind
Yeah.
of thing. Like, just the concepts of the multiverse sounds so interesting
Yeah, it is.
and it sounds amazing, but I don't know, having constantly see it in like every superhero movie
Yeah.
on both DC and Marvel, and I mean like even on like independent films like Everything Everywhere All at Once,
Yes,
like
yeah.
even they did multiverse. So it's like every single movie did the multiverse at one point, to the point where it's like it's crazy how this is like a subgenre of a subgenre, and I'm
Yeah,
already
100%.
fatigued of it, and it just started.
100%. Yeah, I don't. It's weird because it was almost my favorite like sci-fi concept. Like, I think the multiverse is so
Exactly.
fun, and you can do so much with it. You also have us Arrowverse fans who watched 10 years worth of it as well, so maybe that doesn't help on our side of things.
Hey, but they started it. They
Oh,
started it.
Oh yeah, I think
They
and they did it
normalized
so
it in
well.
pop culture.
Yeah, and like they knew how to do it well, because like all the other like they made us care about so many different like doppelgangers and stuff. And like we like some of those
Exactly.
guys more than our main characters. So Harry and
Yeah.
Jay Garrick, and oh my gosh, it was so good.
And depending on who you ask, Laurel.
Yeah, so many. Yeah, there's so many characters. Jesse Quick and
Exactly. Yeah.
Earth Two Barry and yeah, there's so many great characters from the multiverse. But yeah, I think it's going to be a couple years worth of it more, but I think hopefully we're heading towards the end of that kind of saga for a while, at least, until they do their Crisis. Crisis, that's coming up too. The Crisis movie in like next month. It's crazy.
Oh, right. That's a thing.
Yeah.
Forgot
After
about
the
that.
Arrowverse, I don't care about it. I mean, like, I won't say they did a great job in the CW, but like they already did it and they did so much. It's like, can you top what they were able to do with that event? I don't know.
Right.
We'll
It's
see.
just the fact that a group of TV shows that was on a network that is like that funds these shows on such a shoestring budget managed to pull off one of the biggest comic book crossovers of all time before even the movies did anything is in like shocking.
Oh, it's absurd. Like that has its problems, but like what they were able to pull off was insane. Like,
exactly. Like for me, I wasn't too crazy about the Crisis crossover, but just the fact that they did it still is the fact that they still did it. I was like, oh, you guys are brave. Like,
yeah,
you guys are very brave.
it was very ballsy, 100%.
Yeah.
Kyra Rex said Tom Cruise being an Iron Man would be like Nick Cage being Superman. Yep, nobody won't get it. Yeah, I
Exactly.
agree. And like, I think sad part is one of the only cameos I liked in that movie. Like, it was one of the only good ones.
But that's the thing, is that like I think it's just an issue of just the social media algorithm just doing a damn good job, just because they're treating that algorithm as if like that's everyone's mindset. And it's like, you guys do realize that you used to make $1 billion on this stuff, right? Like, let's say each individual person, say that hypothetically 1 billion people saw that. You know how many of those 1 billion people are actually like hardcore nerds or like hardcore like obsessed with that kind of stuff in the comic books? Judging by comic book sales numbers, not that many. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, we're a start. Like, we're like a small number, and that's been something I've been thinking about a lot. Like, how I kind of hate that casual audiences get to like control what these comic book movies are. Like, there's something sad about,
Yeah.
like, if people stopped watching MCU movies, so like, all the casual audiences just stopped. They'd stop being made. And that, I think, is kind of scary. Where it's like,
Flat
James
out,
Gunn's
yeah.
universe. If the casual audience doesn't go to see Superman, we're not seeing this universe be made. It's just not going to happen.
100%. Yeah.
And that's kind of terrifying to me. That we need to, like... I wish I could just, like, live in a bubble where, like, they make the movies because they like making movies and they get to make it for us and no one else matters and we can just enjoy these movies. But that's just not how this world works. And that's kind of sad in a sense, I think.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not how it works.
100%. Let's move on to our next big thing. Adria, this week we had a lot of trailers come out over the last week or so. Let's just kind of go through these trailers if we've seen them. Okay, so let's start with The Boys. This was the one I was most excited about. I was very shocked it was actually coming out this early because Gen V just finished up like last month or so.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah. Like, I was 100% thinking the same thing of, like, I was shocked when it showed up. I got the notification that it dropped. I was like, wow, already? I didn't watch the Gen V show. I know I should, but I didn't watch it, but I heard it just ended. So it's like the fact that we're already cranking out season 4.
Yeah, it's been a weird because last week we talked about the Boys Mexico spinoff that was recently announced, and we talked about with me and Connor. We're like, okay, this is whatever, but you should have waited to announce it later than Gen V literally just stopping. And then the Boys season 4 trailer, and I was like, okay, maybe the Boys comes out in like March or something, but there's no date. So I'm assuming it's summer again. Or maybe, when's the election? Fall, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it would be really funny if they dropped it along with the election, because this season feels very like election themed. Like, it feels like it's going along with like the election stuff that's going to be happening. That'd be kind of funny.
That would be pretty ballsy if they did that, to be honest. But I mean, they've always been pretty ballsy. I mean, the fact that this show has had zero qualms with making fun of literally anyone and everyone, no matter what you think, it's amazing. Like, I love how, like, literally no one is safe, no matter what you think. It's like your critique. It's just one big critique on us, and I think it's going to be the rude awakening that a lot of people are gonna see, especially when you're seeing it side by side.
I'm going to be very curious because, again, it feels very, like, with everything that's happened, especially with the Trump stuff, it seems like it's very going hard on making fun of that. And, like, Homelander has always kind of been that figure, like, what he, like, represents is kind of, like, the worst of politics and stuff. So...
Exactly.
I'm really excited to see how they handle the whole situation. Did you watch this trailer yet? Did you see the trailer?
I saw the Boys trailer. I mean, I was excited for it, but I think the only thing that I really gathered from it, because I only watched it like twice, so it's just that there's going to be like 2 new members into the 7 now. Like, we already got the Black Noir replacement, and it seems like someone has already replaced what's her name again? I forgot.
Oh gosh, the Wonder Woman,
Warrior Woman, I think it was, maybe.
Oh, what's her name? I know what you mean though.
Yeah, but like, it's like they already
Starlight is
her
also gone too. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
I'm gonna be very curious because I like, not to spoil Gen V, but just it's like as a concept, a lot of the thing is like
Queen Maeve. Thank you,
Queen Maeve. There we go. I was like, it was on the tip of my tongue, but like a big concept while watching that show, it's like these characters that we're watching could someday be part of the 7. Like, being a part of the 7 is like the highest you can go. Like, that's everything they're working towards. Is like, that's the tippity top.
Right.
So it is very fun to see kind of like the like transition. There's been a lot of people who's like, could one of these characters actually be a character from Gen V that they're setting up to be in the Boys? I'm going to be very curious where we take the season now. Because again, I don't think this trailer gave us a lot. Like, it was a pretty...
Yeah, it didn't.
No, it didn't. Like, there's no, like... I feel like a lot of trailers are doing that now, where there's not a lot of plot in the trailers. Like, they just show shots.
To be fair, to be fair, it is called like a teaser trailer. So
Fair,
I,
fair,
I
fair.
think I think they don't want to reveal anything just like right out the bat because they know there's still a couple of months out before they actually start releasing it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. No, I'm gonna be curious. And again, I'm curious when it's going to come out. I do hope there is a bit of a gap from Gen V to this, give people a bit of a break, especially since there's not a lot coming out next year as far as like superhero content. Like I think this is going to be one of the biggest things that we get, along with like Deadpool 3 and like Joker 2 and stuff like that. So I'm gonna be curious
right.
what all is in store with the show. Up next we have House of the Dragon, which, are you a Game of Thrones fans? I don't think we've ever talked about Game of Thrones. Are you a fan of that franchise?
I'm a surface level fan. I like Game of Thrones, but I'm not like very too deep into that world.
Yeah.
I liked the first like 5 seasons of the original show. I think just based on the one season of the House of the Dragon, I'm not gonna lie, I already enjoy it a lot more than I ever did the original Game of Thrones show. Just because a lot of things that I just had a problem with the Game of Thrones show seems to be non-existent in House of the Dragon. Granted, it's only one season, so that could change with this upcoming one. But yeah, I loved season 1.
Yeah. I still haven't finished season 1. I
Oh
watched
my god.
like the first 7 episodes and I loved it, and I was like, I will catch up once the show like drops all the episodes, and I haven't, and I still plan on going back and watching it, especially since again there's not much next year, so I'll definitely
The
hop on that
ending
bandwagon.
is insane. The ending is insane.
I hear how good it is. I'm excited to hop back in. Did this trailer do it for you? Did it like give you that hype going into the season 2?
I mean, the fact that this show has already generated the hype, it's like one of the very few shows where I'm constantly keeping tabs on. I haven't even seen the trailer yet.
Oh, okay.
I've been meaning to, but I haven't gone around to it. But I know that it dropped, and I'm probably gonna watch it as soon as this is over.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I think Game of Thrones is a show where I don't always love the show itself, but I love the environment around the show, and I like getting that fan hype. Whereas like how like these episodes, like I thought the show was really good. I had a lot of fun with it, but like what was even more fun is seeing the fans get together again. And I wish I could have watched Game of Thrones live, because I feel like that's a whole experience that I just missed out on. I just binged the show, and when I was like diving into like the fandom a little bit and seeing reactions and stuff, just seeing how it like inspired, like it just took the whole world by storm, and I think that's very cool. And I got a glimpse of that the like day it dropped, like seeing fans again get back into the fandom and being like, wait, this isn't Game of Thrones season 8, this is more like Game of Thrones season 1 again. And I'm seeing people, I just love seeing people happy about fandoms they love. Like that's one of my favorite things ever. So I'm happy that fans get their show back, and that hopefully it's another banger.
Same. I mean, it's just, I think mainly because Game of Thrones was such an event, but I think the reason why it was such an event, it was just the fact that it was one of those last big shows that everyone watched, and it was like right before streaming went super big too.
Yeah, 100%.
So like every single week when Game of Thrones was on, everyone talked about it. It was like one of the last. It was genuinely one of the last shows to have that effect. Because I mean, now we kind of have multiple shows that are like that. I mean, like we have Stranger Things, but Stranger Things, that conversation really only lasts like a month because they drop it all at once instead of weekly. They don't spread it out. So like the conversation, like if it releases in July, the conversation like gives birth and then dies in July. Like no one's gonna talk about it outside of that month.
Yeah, I mean, I think Netflix has so many shows like that where they could be these absolute event things, but they come out at once and everyone watches it in 12 hours and no one talks about it. Like, I mean, they have Avatar coming up. I think Avatar could be a show like that for a lot of people. Maybe not on that scale, but like Avatar is has such a massive franchise, and there's like, here's all 8 episodes all at once, and it's like, man, I don't know, man. But yeah, no, I'm excited for it to come back. Next up we have Halo, which is a franchise. I'll be honest, I know nothing about Halo. I haven't played the game.
Me either.
I've seen the first episode of Halo. Did you see any of the show?
I have seen people talk about the show. That's as much as I've got.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it was a thing for me, which I like when it was announced. I was like, okay, maybe I'll check that out because I like adaptations that like, even though I'm not a part of that franchise, maybe this could be my way into the franchise, an easy way for me kind of learn the story. But everyone
Right.
said it's nothing like the actual story, and it kind of sucks. So it's like, why should I continue if like even the fans are upset? So
I have heard Halo being compared to The Witcher in a lot of ways,
mhm,
where it just takes a pre-existing IP, but then the
changes
creators
it.
just
Yeah.
they just like use their own ideas. And I
Mhm.
think that's like something larger to be said about like a lot of studios are just not into original ideas anymore. Like they have to
Yeah.
be from like existing IP. So I think a lot of creators are just getting clever about it. It's like, well, I have this really good original idea. I'll just put that original idea in this pre-existing IP. And it's like, in theory, that sounds genius, but you end up pissing off the fans. You end up scaring away people who want to get into the fandom,
Yeah.
and you end up getting the studio executives upset because no one's watching it.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
no, I mean, I think, and I don't even think it's all the creatives' faults because I think it's very clear that original content's really hard to sell now. Like, it is really
exactly.
hard for people to be like, hey, this new thing that's never existed, it's not based on anything at all. Will you watch it? And most people are like, no, why should I? Why? Because everything in the show is something I've seen before in another thing. So it's so hard to pitch a new thing. Um,
Exactly.
so I get it. I really, really do. But I think adapting something is always so hard because there's the two parts of my brain that I'm like, well, do something different to the franchise that we've never seen before, but then there's also like you
Right.
do need to adapt it in a way that everyone's happy. So, and I hear season 2 I think has a different team behind it or something, so I hope the fans are happy with season 2 more than season 1.
I don't
But
know,
we'll
man.
see.
That sounds very similar to The Witcher too, where
Yeah, true.
they said season two of The Witcher is going to be very different from season one, and then even then, people were even more angry at season two of The Witcher because of how different it was.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. I yeah, I haven't seen that either. I've thought about getting into it, even if it's just for the cast, but we'll see. But honestly,
Right.
I don't even know if I should now. Like now feels like absolutely worst time to jump into Witcher. Feels like
Don't
yeah,
just
it
don't.
sounds like the worst idea I could possibly do.
As
Um,
someone who's like who watched it since like the very first season came
yeah.
out, I actually really do like the first season. Granted, the only exposure I had to The Witcher was the video games. I did not read the books at all, but
Mhm.
just seeing having a bit of a different adaptation, I was like, okay, season one is good.
Yeah.
Season two wasn't that good, and then season three was just outright bad. And it doesn't help that even the creators of those shows are actively insulting the fans that watch it. And it's just like it's okay to shut
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to stop talking sometimes.
100%. Yeah, that show seems like a whole mess at the moment. Like
Yeah.
everything they say, it's about like, well, this is like getting a new James Bond. It's like, no, it's not, because it's in the same continuity. Like it's totally
It
different
shouldn't
thing.
be James Bond. Like it shouldn't be treated like that. And the fact that like the creator was just like, "Oh, we had to dumb the writing down because you guys were like too stupid to get it." It's just like, "Yes, that was the reason. That was the reason why. We were just too stupid to get it, not because you suck at writing." Like
That's funny. That's crazy. All right, next up here we have Godzilla X Kong, which is the sequel from Godzilla versus Kong. I kind of forgot this franchise was a thing until a couple
same.
months ago. But we have Monarch currently going on, which I'm not currently watching, but I'm hearing it's solid. And then Godzilla, mine this one's currently in theaters. It's not anything to do with this, but there's a lot of like Godzilla content going on right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Did you see this trailer? Are you hyped for this movie at all?
I am just not big into Godzilla and
Yeah, same.
Kong and any of those like
Yeah,
destruction kind
kaiju.
of like
Yeah,
movies. Yeah, it's just not my thing. Mainly because I mean, like, sure, it's a fun movie to just turn your brain off. I watched
yeah,
Godzilla versus Kong when it
yeah.
came
It's fun.
out, and yeah, it was fun. It was nice to see the explosions. The issue is a lot of those
Yeah.
movies just like keep adding those like human elements to it. And it's
Mhm.
just like, listen, if you can add in those human elements and actually for it to be good,
Mhm.
I'll watch it. But until then, I'm just gonna fast forward until Godzilla fights Kong.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy them enough. Like, they're fine. I like seeing like the big monkey fight the giant dinosaur. Like, while that's happening, that's hype. And that's the trailer. Like, there's that shot everyone's hyping up where it's like Godzilla and Kong are running. Where everyone's like, "Yo, let's go!" But like, how much of that movie? How much of the movie is that exactly? And how much of it is other stuff?
It's almost never just that. It's always like the last 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Which, granted, I understand that's expensive, but like still,
100%. And it's impossible to do it almost any other way. Like you have to have the human stuff, or it would be boring. Like, I'd be bored if it was just like a 90 minutes of just like Godzilla fighting Kong. Like, there's no
sure, yeah.
Like, you need something. Just make the characters good, which is what a lot of people are saying is Godzilla -1. It was like everyone's like the human characters are the best part. I'm like, whoa, okay, that's interesting.
Right.
So I might have to check it out. Maybe we'll see. But yeah, I'm actually shocked how hyped everyone was. Like, I guess I forget that like Godzilla is such a massive brand. Like, it is a massive brand, but I feel like it's not talked about as much as like your other massive brands and stuff like that.
Yeah. I was kind of shocked, but also not at the same time, just to see how big it is. Just because, in case like it's in our colloquial like language now, like anything that's like anyone that's considered like being out of control or wild, we always add in like something Zilla to it. Like, it's part of our culture now. It's part of our language. So.
Yeah, I'll probably watch it when it comes out, but like, I don't think it's gonna be at like top of my like most anticipated list for next year or anything.
Yeah, I'll catch it on streaming. It's okay.
Yeah, that's fair. Next up we have Fallout, which is another game that's getting turned into a series. Are you a fan of the like Fallout franchise at all?
I am familiar with it. I wouldn't call myself a fan, but I know like the whole like story about it.
Sure. I knew nothing. I literally thought it was like the Sims type game because I just saw that like little man with like a t-shirt on, and I thought it was like a show where he like goes and he gives people food when they're hungry in the apocalypse, and then he goes to another room and gives them food. Like, I thought that's what it was, and I was like, oh no, this is a full-on apocalypse show. Like, this is like an open world type thing.
I literally said in the chat to you when this trailer came out, and I was like, oh my god, amazing, another movie that has a really good message, but no one is gonna get it. Like, it's gonna go completely over everyone's heads and miss the entire point.
Yeah, I mean this show feels just based on, again, not knowing the games at all, and although I am thinking about like maybe I'll check one of them out at some point. I love like apocalypse stuff. Like, that stuff is so interesting to me. That I'm like, I'm kind of in. Like, this show looks so much fun as just like this Amazon apocalypse end of the world type adventure. So just based on the trailer alone, I'm in. Like, it looks like so much fun.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'll learn about the show as I go. And I don't know how accurate it's going to be to the games, what it's doing, kind of if it's doing its own thing or if it's kind of going off on its own. But we'll see, I guess. Right. And last, we have Grand Theft Auto, another franchise I'm not too familiar with. The world's like blown up currently. Like, people are so hyped for a GTA 5. Are you hyped for GTA?
I never really cared about GTA. To be honest, I do find it kind of hilarious how the memes on TikTok are hilarious, where a lot of people are like, "I was a literal child and I had to purchase the game with my parents, and now I'm old enough to just get it alone."
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the memes I keep seeing.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, it's been, what, 12 or so years since the last game, so definitely get why people are excited. I played some of them. I don't think they're my vibe. Like, I don't think that's a brand that I'm super into, but...
Yeah, it's not my type of game either.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun, the, like, little bit I played of it, but then there's the, like, little guy in the back of my head. It's like, you just killed a cop, man. That's weird. It's like, oh, okay, I don't know how to feel right now, you know? But yeah, I'm very excited because I think the culture around that game is gonna be a lot of fun to see people excited about a game that they grew up on. And hopefully it looks good. Like I watched the trailer and was like, hey, yeah, that looks cool. I'll probably never play it, but it looks fun.
Right, happy for the people that are enjoying it, but
100%. Yeah. Kai Rex said Hulu is officially on Disney Plus. Super excited about it. Is it like officially?
Oh, did they finally merge? Because they keep announcing that like every year, and then just
Yeah.
like.
I mean, they announced it was happening this month, but I didn't know it was like now. Kind of crazy. I'm gonna take a quick detour and just look.
I highly doubt it.
Oh, it is. It's hold on. Can I screen share it? Will it let me? It is on there.
Oh. No way.
That is kind of crazy. I will.
That's actually wild.
Yeah, I kind of love that because it happened overseas a couple years ago, right?
And I mean, they have been announcing that forever. They have literally been announcing that, oh, it's gonna get merged eventually.
Yeah.
Like since as soon as Disney Plus came out, and I mean, if anything, I mean, like About Time. I mean, that's one less streaming service I have to purchase. Like I don't longer have to get the bundle, I guess.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's just like one main price. You don't have to get the bundle. And honestly, I might do that because I don't use the like sports stuff. Like I don't use it at all. So that'd be kind of nice if I could.
Yeah. I mean, well, they recently started doing the Just Disney and Hulu thing, which was what I have.
Sure.
So
Family Guy on Disney Plus is wild to me. Like when this launched, I never would have imagined. That's crazy. All right, we are 45 minutes in. I do want to get into now on the topics of shows, and I did want to bring it up since you are on here. There are 2 upcoming series that are coming out that are based on things that you really love. That are coming out within the next couple of months. And I did just kind of want to touch base with you on, and that's Percy Jackson and Avatar. Percy Jackson coming out in like 2 weeks. Like it's here, literally, and Avatar coming out in like 2 months. How are you kind of feeling on both of these, as we both have trailers for both, like they are advertising both these shows now? How we kind of feeling?
I am counting the days, minutes, seconds until Percy Jackson comes out. I am so excited for this one. Every single trailer I see, I continue to have that moment of like, and I read that, and I read that, and I read that. And that's seeing amazing. the list of episode titles, I'm being like, those are all chapters. Those are literally all the chapters of the book.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and just the fact that the author has such an integral role in the behind the scenes of this show makes me really believe that, like, all right, this is going to be taken care of. So I'm excited, and the fact that Percy Jackson has there's the main 5 books, and then it spawned its entire separate universe, like with like dozens of books on there. Sure. So like for Disney, this could easily be a franchise that like can never end.
Oh yeah, I mean they're totally going to be doing that. Like if this is popular, they're totally going to do movies and like special events and like presentations, and Percy Jackson is going to be inside their parks, and it's going to be crazy.
Oh my god, it's going to be so dope. I would love to see a Percy Jackson ride.
That'd be pretty insane. And I don't know, it just makes me happy. Like I think this year's been a really good year of just like book adaptations from or just like adaptations of things that people love in general. Like One Piece came out a couple months ago. I love the show, and I've loved seeing people being like, this is what the anime was, but in live action. Like that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So like new Hunger Games came out, and people were like, this is a really good thing from the book, that the book was so good. So yeah, no, I think it makes me very happy. It seems like this made with so much love and care. I'd be shocked if it's not good. Like it seems like it's going to be pretty great. So I'm excited.
100%. And
it's also a franchise that obviously isn't new. Like it is part of a brand, but it's like a franchise that like me and a lot of people others haven't experienced yet. Like this is going to bring in a lot more people. I'm excited to get into a new world that I'm not too used to. Like again, I've seen the movies, but like those doesn't seem like those were the books at all. So I'm excited for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, no, the movies are a choice. I think the movies, if they were original ideas and not based on books at all, they could have gotten away with it. But just the fact that it was, that's where a lot of people's issues come from.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And then Avatar comes out in about 2 months. We got a trailer for it a couple weeks ago. I was geeking out a bit. I thought it was a gorgeous trailer. But you had said that you're kind of still on the fence, right?
I did enjoy the trailer, but I think I'm still extremely skeptical about it. That's just fair. Because of that whole moment where the original creators of the animated show left the show because of creative differences of it, and just because of the fact that like that's so vague and like I don't know what the creative differences were or like what does that mean, and it just makes me think like I don't know, man. I feel like having the original creators wanting to leave is not necessarily the greatest sign of it, especially since they left and then managed to have their own entire studio. So I guess, I don't know, like it sounds like they ended up getting what they wanted in the end. And like Netflix is just like, we already spent so much money. We might as well just keep continuing regardless if it fails or not. But I mean, from what I've seen, I can't really complain. It looks like it's being taken care of. It looks expensive. It looks pretty well made just visually. But in terms of like the story and stuff like that, I'm just gonna be skeptical and hopefully I get proven wrong.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean that was me for like the longest time. Like when they left, I was like, well, this is gonna be trash now. It's gonna be terrible. But like everything I've seen since that announcement have been like, wait, maybe it's not so bad. Wait, this casting is really, really good. Wait, this looks really, really good. This looks gorgeous. Like, I'm gonna be very curious, and I have a feeling that I think the show's gonna be great. I do have a feeling though they're gonna change some things that people aren't going to be happy about. Like, we already heard about like the age changes, and stuff like that, and I think they're gonna mess with ships a little bit, which I think could either be really cool or very messy.
Right.
So we'll definitely see how it goes. But I'm very hyped. Like I think the world will be, I think this is going to be a show. Honestly, I think it's going to be one of like the big event shows of next year. Like I think everyone's going to be watching this and talking about it. I think it's going to be like your One Piece that came out this year where like all the reaction channels were watching it at the same time and stuff like that. So I'm excited for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting with the whole age difference conversation, especially since you literally have Percy Jackson right next to it, which chose to be very accurate with the ages of the characters in the show because they had learned from the age differences in the movies where it's like, oh, people actually want the characters to be like 12 years old. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, that's almost like it's the entire show. Like it wouldn't work if they were older.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I said this like, as soon as it was announced. I think they want to do a I think there's a certain ship that they couldn't do in the series because of ages that they can now do because they're older. Certain characters are older, and which was a ship that I kind of like. I liked the ship and like inside the show. Like I was like I kind of shipped them. So now it's happening. I was like I don't know how to feel. Like I don't know how I feel about them doing that, but we'll see. We will definitely see. I am very excited for the show to come out. Both of these shows. I think it's going to be a fun time. And with that being said, almost 50 minutes into the stream, we're going to be talking about our main topic today.
In classic problematic behavior fashion.
Hell yeah. We have our Doomies, Doom Patrol Season 4. It finished a month ago. Guys, we were very late to this. It was just last month was crazy. So much like I had to talk about Spider-Man. There's a whole bunch of Marvel things came out. I was trying to make room for it. I couldn't do it last month, but we're here for Doom Patrol. Again, thank you for joining me for this. Like I don't know if there's anyone. I think it's me and you and like 5 other people have even seen the ending of the show. Like no one watches Doom Patrol, man. It's really sad because it is such a great show. Just kind of in general, like what, all 4 seasons, what's your kind of like general thoughts on Doom Patrol as a series?
So Doom Patrol. Oh, I thought you told me to watch Paw Patrol, so that's why
shit.
Well, I'm not prepared for this.
Let's change the whole stream. Let's talk about Paw Patrol.
Yeah, like that's why I have Zuma right here. Sorry. No, I'm just kidding. In terms of Doom Patrol as a show, as a whole, very impressive. Just the fact that it like tackled a lot of the topics that it did and handled it very well. Because I mean, it doesn't really do anything groundbreaking in terms of like ideas for stories. It's definitely a lot of stories that you have seen before, but with a lot of that, it's always written not in the best way when in terms a lot of these previous shows or even movies where a lot of those mental health issues weren't necessarily written in the best light or written. You could clearly tell that the people writing those mental health issues couldn't necessarily relate, or more so didn't or didn't know anyone that could relate to it. So I think the fact that Doom Patrol as a series, it very much did the research in terms of it. Like, it felt like everyone dealing with these mental health issues and like their own like tragedies and their own stories, like it was handled in a very mature, in a very realistic way of like, yeah, I totally believe that these are actual real people. Like the fact that there is a walking robot and a person that's basically a mummy that has like an alien light thingy inside them, and I still believe that like, oh, these are human people even though they literally fight zombie butts. It's like it's incredible. The fact that you make me believe these are real people, like, it's amazing.
And I think that's always kind of been the joy of the show, was there are so many superhero shows out there. How do you make one stand out? And I think Doom Patrol really does stand out because it isn't about, let's be honest, this is not a superhero show. I don't think it ever really was. It's about people trying to be superheroes. It's about a family. It's about families trying to sort out how fucked up they are and that journey with them. I think is one of the best journeys in like DC TV. Like, we'll talk about like the final episode, but it really hit home in the final episode to me of how good each character is in their own right. If they joined in season 1, if they had come back from a prior season, or if they had just joined us a couple years ago, like I think they just all work so well, and they're such rich characters that it really hurt to say goodbye. And I didn't even realize how much I was going to miss these characters until like the credits started to roll, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this is over. Like, I can't believe we've seen their journeys. It's crazy.
Right. 100%. 1000% even. It's just, this show very much felt like, I mean, granted, a lot of these other shows seemed like they had something to say, but it always seems like they kind of lost themselves in their messaging towards the end.
Sure.
Whereas with Doom Patrol, for the most part, I mean, I do think there are some things where they kind of did lose themselves in, but for the most part, I think it did a very good job at saying what they wanted to say. Like, the message from the show, from episode 1 to the very last one, was very clear. You got the themes, you got the message, and it really resonated with, I feel like it should resonate with a lot of people if it doesn't.
What I think is very interesting about Doom Patrol, and I think a lot of people, I do think you need to watch the whole show to get this message, is that for the most part, season after season, they don't necessarily grow, or at least they don't grow in the way that we're used to characters growing. Like, they don't go through it, like they don't have a thing, they go through a thing to learn the problem, and then they fix themselves. They don't do that. They go through this traumatic thing, and then they revert back to the same person that they were at the beginning of the episode. But I don't think it's a negative on the show. Like, it's not just lazy writing that they keep going back. That's literally who they are, and that's all they know how to do. And I think the final episode, I think, hits that home, where it's literally like, none of us will grow unless we leave this mansion. We have to leave each other to finally be able to grow.
Yes.
And it's like, holy shit, you're right. And the way that they do that is beautiful, I think. What was just your kind of, just like your general thoughts about like the final episode? Because I think we might have differing opinions. Like, I had just watched, you had watched this yesterday, right?
Yeah.
I watched it like 3 hours ago by this point, so it's very fresh. And I think I'm going to be like growing my opinions on this episode as we talk about it, because I still haven't I haven't broken down how I actually feel about this episode yet. But like, what was your kind of thoughts on just like the final episode as a whole?
I think for the most part, it was genuinely one of the best finales I've ever seen. Like,
Okay.
ever. Especially in this, I guess, superhero comic book
Yeah.
genre, I guess, where just everything felt, it tugged on your heartstrings so well, but it still, for some, blended that perfect amount of like absurdist comedy that it was known for,
Yeah.
and it perfectly encapsulated everything together in just a single episode. I think there are a couple of gripes with it, but those gripes are not strong enough for me to be like, oh,
Mhm.
I was left underwhelmed with this finale or stuff like that. Like if I had to give it like based on a 5-star scale, it was like it's easily a 4.5. Like they ended it on such a high note, a note that like it leaves you emotional. It's like yeah.
Oh, I think it did all of its like we're saying goodbye to these character stuff perfectly. Like some of the best I've ever seen. I thought it was perfect. And I think it was my favorite kind of ending to a show where, and I think this is the good and bad of the episode, where they wrap the main story up within like the first like 10 minutes of the episode, and then they still have like 40 minutes left to just let characters breathe and like say goodbye and wrap up their stories. And that's my favorite kind of shows like this. Like I like getting these one-on-one character stuff with these characters. I do think that also comes at a negative because they really rush the wrapping up of the main villain and the overarching story. Like they finish that so unbelievably quick to the point where it doesn't feel like they wrapped it up at all. Like it just feels like, oh, we sang and now she's gone and now she's good now. It's like, wait, what? I thought she was like this big jumbo villain. Where'd she go? But then there's also in Doom Patrol fashion, because that's kind of what always happens. Like they kind of like they never do anything to save the day, really. Like it happens around them. So I'm not sure if it's a negative on my part or if it's what they've always done. And I'm just now noticing it. I'm not really sure. What was your thoughts on just kind of like the main villain and how they wrapped it up and like all that kind of stuff?
I feel like well, can we go into spoilers?
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, spoilers. There's like no one watching. It's fine.
This is easily one of the worst main villains of Doom Patrol of all time. This villain sucked. This villain was bad. I would go as far as to say that this main villain was flat out bad.
Yeah.
The main conflict was just ridiculous and bad. And I mean ridiculous in a very bad way. Usually I don't have a problem with ridiculous stuff when it comes to Doom Patrol, because I feel like, I mean, we've dealt with worse, but it's just the way they handled it. It just felt like a joke that has gone on for too long. And it was a joke that was barely funny to begin with. Like I knew for a fact that Immortus was going to be like, not a fake out, but they were going to do this big reveal. And then it's just going to be like this comedic thing of like, oh, that's who the villain. I thought it was going to be the donkey from like the second episode.
That'd be so good.
Episodes of the season, like of the season 1.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be the donkey. Like I 100%, I convinced myself it was like that. And then it ended up being Isabel Feathers. And at first I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. And then every episode just went by. And I'm just like, all right, guys, this is not funny anymore. Like it's just, can we get to the point? It very much felt like that whole Immortus storyline was just a thing. So the characters would have to face their mortality. But
which I thought was great. I think like everything with them having to grow older and like find themselves and for the first time really facing death, I thought was a great final season plotline.
It was beautiful. It's just the fact that did we really need to do all this storyline stuff? Like you could just have it. Like you've written a show where you could just have it be the, all right, their longevity's gone, move on.
Yeah, I thought she kind of like she doesn't really do anything. Like I think her at her best was the like musical episode, and like I think in that episode she's terrifying. Like her song at the end where she's like making them walk as puppets and she's like using their theme song, that's genuinely amazing. Like I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm ready for her to get big and bad and scary. And then like the next episode she's like, I'm throwing a play and you can come to my play. And I was like, all right, what's the trap here? And there really isn't a trap. She's just like genuinely trying to get them to come to her play and trying to like make them as friends. It was like, where did this come from? Like, it was such a big jump.
She was, as a character, she is so hard to read. It's like you were trying to figure her out every episode, and it's like, what do you want? I'm so confused. Like, what?
Yeah.
Why are you a villain? I don't understand. Like, you're doing very morally questionable actions, but like, why? Is it really just because of local community theater? And it doesn't help that part of the reason why I do think this villain was very lackluster is just like, I understand that like the whole point of like her character and her joke is that she's like a local community theater actor, and that's like not very good. Did they have to get an actor that's not very good to do it though? Like no shade to the actor, but her performance wasn't really that great. Like I never, aside from her big reveal and I like you said, the musical episode, I never really bought her as a villain. I was just like, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it.
Yeah. I think really, she was really the only like massive issue I had with the season. Like, just me not vibing with her, and I also don't think it helps that they don't really like they don't finish her story. Like, she joins a band and she leaves, and it's like, wait, shouldn't you have like, I don't know, done something else with her? And I'm wondering if maybe they did, like, I know a lot of these like DC shows, they did their season as normal, and then they found out it was probably their final season, so they had to write it as if. So I'm wondering if there was another ending that wasn't what we
100%.
had.
I do think the last 6 episodes were rewritten just based
like
on the fact that it felt like Vic's storyline. There were 2 character storylines that I really had a problem with throughout the whole season. And it was Vic's and Jane's, which it is unfortunate because Jane is like my favorite character of the show. So for me to have a problem with her storyline this season was like unfortunate. Like, it was heartbreaking. I mean, there were episodes where it was really good, but just like the overall story left me very underwhelmed, where it felt like, granted, ever since season 2, Victor's storyline has always been aimless, or at least it felt aimless, where he's always been so disconnected from everyone else. He's always doing something else in Detroit or doing something else over there. And I think for the most part that it somehow always managed to connect to his personal journey of like growing as a person and being, oh, I now understand that the world isn't as black and white as I thought it would be. And I think this season, it felt like we were really leaning towards Vic finally understanding that like true social change doesn't come from fighting people. It comes from like doing programs, like actually people who commit crime, like the only way to prevent crime is to make those people who are potential criminals go into these programs and seek proper resources and seek proper help. And it felt like that's where he was learning. It felt like with Derek and his whole friends, it felt like they were really leaning into that. And then just for them in the last 6 episodes, he's like, all right, I'm Cyborg. The world is saved again. And it's just like, that's not what your story was building up to at all. I mean, sure, you could be Cyborg again, but like, it doesn't feel like you're doing anything different.
I think the end, I think his ending was really, really good, but I do agree that I think he staggered getting to that point. Like, you start I think you start the season really cool where he doesn't have his power. He's trying to find his place in the world again. I think that in between where he's kind of stumbling around without his powers, he's part of the team, but he's also not part of the team. That's a little weak for him. But I do ultimately like his ending. Like, I do like him getting his powers back and teaching the students and finding his place in the world. And again, I think he ultimately does have that ending where it's like, I'm not necessarily like, I'm not on a team, I'm not part of a crew, but I'm helping people as Cyborg in a different way now. But I can definitely get where you're coming with that. And I honestly, he was like, as far as the endings go, I thought he was one of the stronger characters in my opinion. Like, I think him and Jane were actually my favorites this season as far as where they ended up. Like, Jane's, I think Jane was the most satisfying. Like, I think her ending, seeing her finally deal with that
was amazing. That was amazing.
Seeing her accept what happened to her. And again, it's been a while since season 1. So like a lot of the like early stuff I'm kind of like blurry on, but like seeing again now, just having Niles back, oh my gosh, I loved it so much. But like seeing her like, hey, this happened to me, and get to put in the last puzzle piece and have all the powers was one of the most satisfying things to me. Like it was
It
so
is
good.
so clever because it's something I never even realized before, where it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, right, you don't think it happened to you because
Yeah.
everyone's personalities has been like their sole purpose is we have to protect Kay. We
Yeah.
have to protect Kay. Like everything bad has happened to Kay. We have to protect her." And then
Yeah.
you slowly and then like just having that moment of like, guys, like we all came from Kay. It happened to
Yeah.
all of us. It was such like a very like emotional moment where it's like, yes, exactly. Like you are Kay. Like all of
Yeah.
you. Like it happened to all of you. And the fact that they're all there together was like a very
Yeah.
heartwarming moment. I think the
Yeah.
only issue I had with Jane's storyline was mainly because of just it's not so much of her, but more so of just the fact that you could clearly tell that they were teasing something so heavily with her and Shelly. Even like last season, they were teasing like with the Sisterhood of Dada, like that girl
Mm-hmm.
who was like controlled the fog and stuff. They teased it so hard last season, and even in this season, they teased it so hard. And then in the last 6 episodes, Shelly's not even talked about. It's not even mentioned, and she suddenly moved on to Casey, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, I really do like that whole.
It's very cute. Yeah.
Like, it's so adorable, but just the fact that when it happened, I was just like, "Oh, are we doing this? What happened to Shelly? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on with her? Like, are we just leaving her now?"
Mm. No, Casey. I think the whole Casey thing, which I loved. I thought they were adorable. But I do think that was definitely victim of like, oh, we got to wrap up the show in like 5 more episodes. Let's give her a lot more screen time and push them together. Which again, I thought was very cute. I think Doom Patrol is one of like the gayest DC TV shows, and I kind of love it. Like, like they do such a great job at building those up, and just their I think there's just their ships as a whole are really really good. I think the way they write them are a lot better than a lot like Larry throughout the whole show. What they've done with Larry as just a character has been brilliant. Like I think they did him
Amazing.
perfectly. I will say I think his ending was probably my least favorite. Like I see what they were doing, but I feel like I still don't understand. Like I don't feel like I don't fully understand what happened with Larry.
Same.
Like
I think
he's a
so.
star now, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a little bit too ambiguous for my liking. I was like, "What is happening?" I'm so confused. I I think for me, when it comes to a lot of the endings, while I really did enjoy it, I think it
Mhm.
still kind of misses the mark of all going back to like what was the central message of the show supposed to be, and it really felt like Doom Patrol was this show about like accepting who you are and being proud of who you are, regardless of
Mhm.
what other people see you as. Right? Like it was that's very much what it was like.
Sure.
Um, and just the fact that I thought it was going to end with, yeah, like we have to leave this mansion. We have
Yeah.
to live in the real world in order to be accepted by the real world.
Yeah.
And I thought that's what was going to happen. I thought they were going to like live in the real world, but the fact that they continue going on their own adventures and like almost all of them pretty much left Earth,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, that's I don't know. It doesn't really sound like you are being accepted on the planet. Like I thought that
Mhm.
was kind of the whole message of the show that like
Yeah.
regardless of what some people think, you will always be accepted in some way, but
Sure.
it kind of just it felt like it missed the mark in terms of that for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's definitely a good point, and I definitely think Larry could have been the big one to do that, to become like an icon on Earth, because I'm looking at most of the characters' arcs, and I think most of them are really good in my opinion. Like I think Rita
Mm,
needed to die. I think that was very apparent that she needed to finally accept death. I think Jane
yep.
needed to start her life. Like this is really the start of her life.
Yes.
So I thought that
Yes.
was perfect. I think Cliff finally got to be with Rory and his daughter and his family. I thought that was a perfect ending. And I think Larry and Rouge are the two where I'm just like, I don't know, and maybe it's just like because like Rouge is very up in the open. Like her story doesn't end here. She kind of just starts a new journey for herself.
I love
So,
Rouge's ending. I'm gonna be
oh
honest.
really? Okay.
I think Rouge makes sense because of the fact that Rouge was always a person that always took things a little bit too far when it came to
Mm-hmm.
things. Like she knew what the right thing is to do. Like she has right intentions, or at least towards the end, she ended up knowing what the right intentions are. But
Yeah.
because of her environment that she grew up in and who she surrounded herself with, she still is trying to get that brutality out of her.
Yeah.
So in her mindset, it's very much of like, okay, I now know what's right from wrong, but why don't I do my same methods in the wrong in the right?
Yeah. Yeah. No. Sure.
Which is why I kind of saw her ending as like kind of fitting. I'm like, yeah,
Sure.
that would make sense. Like she would 100% turn into like an extremist
Mm-hmm.
for, those people with powers, like rights. I don't know, like metahuman rights, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, I thought it was a good ending. I do think it kind of like. I think she's definitely one that jumped. Like, I think she needed a couple episodes more to get there. Like, her realizing all this happens very quickly at the end. And again, I don't think that's the show's fault. I think the show did the best they could during the time they had.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of felt bad because the whole time my opinion on her was like, I like her, but she's not as good as the rest of the characters. And that's like her own insecurities about herself. Is that like, hey, they like me enough, but I'm never going to be like one of the others. And that's literally what she's thinking throughout the show. And I'm like, well, shit, man, I'm a terrible person for feeling this way.
It gets
But
you.
yeah, no, I mean, I think she's a great character, and I do think she was a great addition to the show. And yeah, no, and again, I think it works. Like I didn't have a problem with any of the endings. I just thought Larry and her were my least favorite out of the bunch.
Yeah, there was none of the endings that I outright disliked or was like, oh, that sucks. But just seeing the endings, I'm like, I get it, I like it, but
Yeah,
there was room for improvement, or you could have done something differently and
sure.
achieved a much better result.
Yeah, and again, I think if it was their plan, I think 5 would have been the final season. I think that was their plan. They wanted to do 5 final season. This was not the plan. The first half wasn't it. But I still think, and what I think they do differently than all the other shows is the other ones, they wrote their ending just in case it was their final season. This, they wrote it as a final season, at least the final episode. Like, they wrote that as the series finale of Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
Where, like, Titans and Stargirl, their final couple minutes are like, yeah, this could be the series finale. So, yeah, no, I think under these circumstances, they had a great finale. And I do want to talk about Cliff. I think that's one of the most beautiful endings to a show I've seen in a long time.
Genuinely the best ending.
Like, Rita's death, it got to me, but she was never one of my favorite characters. Like, I think out of the whole crew, she was always my least favorite. So it definitely got to me, and I thought her funeral scene was very sad. But Cliff, it got me. Like, I was done for. Oh my gosh, it's such a perfect way to end a show. Like,
Yes, just like with Rita, I think I was like getting close to being emotional, but I think it was just because of like there were too many jokes in it. In my opinion. So I was just like, okay, I'm not feeling anything. Like anytime I got close to being emotional, there was a joke that would undercut it. So it was like, all right, well, I mean, if this is the ending that you want to have for Rita, then I guess it works. And then
I think just the first like them finding out she died is sadder than the funeral itself. Like
exactly,
her, like Rouge screaming and Cliff being like, fuck this, we're gonna go save her right now because that's our only option. Like, we're all in this together, let's go to save her if we can be a family. Like, that was like, oh my god, like that was really, really good. And then the like her funeral itself, I like that scene because I do think it fits the tone of the show for them to just be kind of fucking around one last time as a crew. It is hard to be like, oh my gosh, she's sad, where it's like, no, you're doing a large fart joke right now.
Yeah. So. I mean, I think the more I think about it, I like the funeral scene less just because when it came to everyone bringing their own like personal items to Rita,
yeah, that hurt.
And they were all like, she was just like, really? That's what you guys think of me? Yeah. And it's just like, it kind of gives off the vibe. It was like, wow, do you guys really like, you guys weren't close. Yeah. Like, you guys don't know, you guys have spent like decades in the same house as her, and you still don't know her, really?
Yeah.
Especially Larry.
Larry was I thought Larry was going to be like, I brought us here because that's what you care about most. I thought that's what was coming, and we never got a moment like that. I was like, oh damn, that kind of sucks. Like, you really didn't know her at all. So I don't know.
I think that was kind of heartbreaking. I think, in my opinion, the way Rita's death would have been handled and would have been emotional is just like Rita and Larry's last conversation. And then like Rita ends the conversation. I was like, oh, by the way, like, please burn my body. Like, I don't want to hang around on this earth any longer. Like, set me free. And then right when the rest of the Doom Patrol is like, all right, we're going to go save her, Larry's just like, no. This is not what she would have wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I didn't have like an issue with the funeral itself because, again, I do think that's kind of what the show's been. It's just overly goofy, but I do think, and maybe you needed a fresh of air for when Cliff thing happens. Like when we see him die, it's even more impactful. Because like if there wasn't that scene, like it's just like this is depressing. Like I do think they needed a couple jokes in there to lay it out a little bit, but I definitely agree. Maybe that's one thing I would change. Maybe, and again, like have everyone else have that joke, and then Larry comes with something serious, showing that was his best friend. You know what I mean? So something like that, I think, would have been cool.
100%. But yeah, Cliff's ending floored me.
So good.
Floored me. It's like the fact that I didn't even see it coming because me neither. I was like, oh yeah, like the toenail thing, and then the moment I saw him still have like Parkinson's, I was just like, oh, so is that just something that you're gonna deal with like forever? Because you can't die, right? Like so you're just gonna deal with that forever. Like it's gonna be one of those Parkinson's disease where it's just not gonna kill you. And then it ended up like killing him. Like he just turned off, and I was just like, it ruined me. It ruined me.
His eyes going closed as the credits go through is such a good choice. Like we're seeing the show through his eyes almost, and when his eyes close, the credits roll as well. Perfect.
Exactly.
Decision.
Because he started the show. Like the plot of the first like season started because he was the one that wanted to go outside and go into the outside world and walk around.
Yeah. And also him seeing Rory's life in a car is perfect because that's how this whole thing got started, because of his car accident. So seeing him go, perfect. And also sorry, go ahead.
The fact that like he was like, the whole point of that car was like a gift to him. And it's like, this is our little bonding moment. Like me and my dad always had issues, but we would always bond over cars. I would hope that you and I would have that same thing. And just seeing his grandson's entire future in that car was just perfect.
I also liked how Rory's life wasn't perfect as well. Like, I think in another show, Rory would have grown up and had a perfect family, a perfect life. He would have got married. It would have just been a perfect life. But like, Rory kind of seems like a piece of shit. Like, he doesn't seem like a great guy.
Yeah,
like,
but he later redeems himself, though.
Yeah, he does. I just like how it wasn't like a perfect life that he created for himself. Like, he seemed like a very complex person. You know what I mean? Which I thought was a nice touch, for sure.
100%. I did like the fact that he kind of had a similar trajectory to Cliff. But unlike Cliff realized his mistakes a little bit too late. Whereas his Rory knew, like he managed to know just in time. So he managed to live the life that Cliff had always wanted to live.
Yeah. 100%. I thought it was beautiful. Like, yeah, because like I said on Twitter, especially like I tweeted out right after episode ended, like that might be one of my favorite like endings to a show I've ever seen. And even if this wasn't a perfect episode, I do think that is a perfect ending to the show. Like, I can't think of a better ending. Like,
100%.
What was your kind of, like, how did you want the season to end? Like how did you want the show to end? Because like, in my head for years, I always had this, like, Toy Story 3 ending for me, where they all hold hands and they all sacrifice their life together except for Cyborg. So like they all like accept death. And I do feel like we got something kind of similar to that, where a lot of these characters do finally accept death and die. But like what was your kind of like how did you want the show to end, I guess?
I think I wanted it to end in one of two ways. I think the more fan service thing in me, like despite the logic and character and story, I think a part of me just wanted to see them be like, I guess, perfectly mentally healed and just be the Doom Patrol.
Sure.
Like just be like the wacky superhero fighting team. But I knew for a fact it wasn't going to end like that at all. I think the more realistic ending that I wanted was just the fact that, yeah, in order to improve upon themselves, they needed to leave. But I thought it was meant as they needed to go outside, go into the world, and just experience what the world is, right?
Sure.
Because it is a world that doesn't treat people like them the kindest, but it's also a world where Superman and Batman and Cyborg and Flash exist. So maybe the world has improved, maybe the world has changed, or maybe they could have been the change for society when it happened. So I think that's what I wanted. I think I wanted all of them to not really leave Earth and just kind of stick around and be like, I want to find myself, I want to be better, and I want to experience the world no matter how cruel it can be.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that would be a great ending. There was always a slight part of me that wanted to see like Vic join the like Justice League. Like I always thought there was a part of me that would be like that'd be a fun ending, but I think would take away from kind of what they were building him to be. So obviously that wouldn't work, but there's a part of me that was like, what if Superman just shows up and like asks him to join the team or something?
I think in the beginning he was in the Justice League at some point, but then
was he?
I think in season 1 because they teased him being part of the Justice League at some point.
I know they like mentioned it, but I didn't know. Okay, maybe it's been a long time since I've seen season 1. It's been a minute.
I could be wrong too, but
yeah.
There was something about him and the Justice League in there, and he really wanted to join it, but then he later realized that, like, oh, Justice League has turned into, like, this, like, big government corporate thing. I don't want anything to do with that.
Sure. Yeah, that's definitely fair. That's definitely fair, and I think he's the best, like, cyborg that we've ever had. I think he's amazing. I think
100%. And it's crazy how a lot of people think that he was going to be the weakest part just because he was so separate from everyone else all the time. And not once did a lot of people, because a lot of people critique the fact that, like, why is Cyborg's storyline always so separate from everyone else? Why is he never in the Doom Mansion? Why is always doing his own thing? And just the fact that a lot of the writers stuck to their guns. It's like, listen, I know that you're not the biggest fan of the fact that he's always on his own, but, like, that's just who he is. Like, he's not part of the Doom Patrol. Like, he's somewhere else.
Early on, I thought he was going to, like, join Titans. Like, they had established that, like, that was the same world. I was like, oh, he'll start off on this show, and then he'll go and move over to Titans, and they'll have crossover. Like, that's just where I...
Yeah, we all thought that way.
Thank God that didn't happen.
Right.
It would have been terrible.
What a bullet we dodged.
Yeah. I do kind of want to mention Cliff a little bit because episode 11 brought Chief back, which I didn't know was happening. I was so hyped. I was like, wait, why did he do the like previously on? Is he in the episode? And he was, which was great. Did you expect him to come back?
I think I did, but that was because the opening credits kind of spoiled it.
Yeah, I kind of wish they didn't do that.
It showed the actor's name on the opening credits. So when I saw him on the opening credits, I was just like, "Oh, so he's in the episode. That's crazy."
Yeah.
But
I didn't think that they would have. Like, this wasn't supposed to be the final season. So it's really impressive that they got him back. That's great.
Right. And I mean, I'm glad they did because I feel like I've kind of been underwhelmed by a lot of the other cameos. Like the fact that the human version of Larry barely showed up, like with the musical episode.
Matt Boomer,
like Matt Bomer was filmed very separately along everyone, and he shared a scene with one other person, and then he was immediately wrapped in bandages in time. And I was like, oh, so like the actor couldn't stay for long. That's unfortunate. Got it. And I feel like a lot of the back half of the season, you would notice that a lot of the scenes, it felt like because the actors couldn't get there. I think it was the penultimate episode of this season where Rouge was calling like a team meeting, and Cliff was just like, Jane says she's getting too old for this shit, so what do you want? And it's like, oh, okay, so the actress couldn't film that scene. Got it.
Sure.
Like,
yeah, that's fair. What did you think about Cliff being the one to break his back? That was insane.
Bro, what? Like, just what? I 100% for the longest time thought that the reason why Niles was in the wheelchair was just the fact that like he was aging too much, that his body couldn't carry himself anymore.
Oh
like,
yeah, sure.
The whole point of like he had the immortality thing, so he couldn't die, but he could still age.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought. I thought it was like, okay, so he's just at that point where like his body is so old that he physically cannot carry his own weight anymore.
Sure.
And the fact that they turned it into like, oh, it's because he like is literally paralyzed from like the waist down. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. I honestly think that like that episode I think made the show better, getting to see his perspective through these characters, and it isn't exactly said, but I don't think he erased his memories through any of these events. I think he
100%.
I think that he knew about Cliff, he knew about Jane, he knew about all this stuff, especially Jane. I think Jane hits hard. Him knowing the entire time that he was going to help Jane, but having to go through that process with her, I think is such good writing. I think it was, and I think it makes, and I do want to go back and rewatch the show at some point, getting to see this journey that he goes through with this whole crew, that he does know about some of it this whole time. I think is really interesting.
I think he was a big part in me really liking the back half, because in terms of like the whole season, this season, I do think this is like easily the weakest that Doom Patrol has put out. Just mainly because, just because like the first 6 episodes were so strong for me.
It's a banger. Yeah.
I was 100% into it. And then it's just the last 6 really kind of just felt underwhelming. Yeah. It wasn't necessarily bad, but it was just like, wow, okay, sure. I get, if you want to handle it like that, then be my guest, sure. And it wasn't really until the musical episode where I started liking it again. It wasn't until the musical episode where I started liking the back half of the season again. But then even after that, I started to like fluctuate with every other episode. Like I didn't like the episode after that, but I really liked the episode after that. And the one after that, it was just,
Yeah, I think, I do think a big part of that is the long break. Like, the show was off for 9 months.
True.
And I think its, like, return episode was not bad, but it was, like, literally in the middle of a story. And I had the hardest time getting back into it. I was like, I am not in the headspace to just jump back into where they... So I wish they would have aired that first. Like, and then that like comeback episode I think would have been a much better if they would have done what it was, like episode 8 instead of 9 or something. Like I think if they would have done that, like it would have been a lot better. And I had a little bit hard time getting back into it, but like the like, musical episode I think might be my favorite episode of the whole show. Like I loved that episode.
Really?
I think so. I watched it twice. I watched it like back to back. I was like, I love this so much. I'm watching it again. I loved it. And then I think this final episode, how they ended the thing. I think this puts season 4 as my second favorite of the show. Just based on how good the first half was. Because I thought the first half, like the whole time I'm watching the first half, I was like, this is finally on par with season 1 again. Because I like season 2. Like season 2, I think is definitely the weakest. Like there's definitely a lot of issues with the season. Even though I don't think some of it's their fault. Like it was COVID and stuff.
Right.
And then even season 3, I like season 3, but I did still like season 1 is one of the greatest comic book like seasons of all time.
Incredible. Literally, it just couldn't be beat. I knew for a fact that the second season 1 came out, I was like, even if they came out with a season 2, they're just not going to beat this. Like, it's just not.
Yeah. And it didn't help. They switched like streaming services, right? Like it started on
That's true.
DC Universe and then went over. This has had like 4 homes. They went from DC Universe to HBO Max to Max.
To now
like,
Max.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. But it's interesting that it's the second favorite season for you because I agree. The first half is really well done, but I think just the back half
that's fair.
just really undercut it. And it's just like the main plot itself, in my opinion, was just like this doesn't really need to be like a main story. It could have just been a whole season of these characters just figuring their shit out, and I would have been okay with it. But
yeah, I mean, maybe again, it's been many years since I've seen like season 1 and season 2, so maybe that would change once I give it a rewatch. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of all like the main notes I have for like the overall like episode. Is there any kind of things that we haven't mentioned that you would like to talk about?
I mean, not really. It's just more so of like where is like the rest of the ranking that kind of goes for you? Because for me, it's like from worst to best. I do think season 4 is the weakest. Then season 2, and I think season 3 was really, really good for me. And then season 1 is easily the best.
Yeah. I'd go season 1, season 4, season 3, season 2, I think. But again, as like season 2 and 3, I think kind of blend at times, like when I'm thinking about it. So again, I would love to revisit it because like there's also a large break. Like they didn't finish season 2. Like we had to wait like a whole year to get like the ending of the season. So that might be a big issue why it's so low.
Yeah, that's true. It's just for me, I think the villains in all those other seasons were just handled better than this season.
That's fair. No,
mainly
that's 100%
because like
fair.
This season, they very much constantly reminded you that like Isabel Immortus is so strong, is the most so powerful, is so powerful.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's crazy. Except Mr. Nobody is literally more powerful than her. So like,
bro, Mr. Nobody was so good. I would have loved if he could have like come back this season and like be the villain again. Like that would have been amazing, and it would have fit very well. I think like with the story that they were telling. Like he drains their like energy and they start getting old, and that's the main like I don't know.
And he was the one that revealed it too. Like he was the one that was like, you guys do realize all of you were experiments for Niles, right? Like he was the one that brought it up. So he could have like messed with them a little bit more. And it's just it was just weird how like Mr. Nobody was even more powerful, but they managed to beat him, yet they couldn't beat a local community theater actress. It's a little bit embarrassing, but okay.
Yeah. But like I also think they didn't get the chance. Like they didn't really get the chance to actually fight her. I think Jane could have taken her easily. Like Jane is so overpowered currently. Like Jane and like Cyborg, which like Cyborg, I don't know how I feel about all his new upgrades. Like he just built like a shuttle for themselves. And I was like, how does that work? I don't know. He brought out like a fire sword.
Yeah, that was weird. Where like he created that entire ball in the time stream, and it's like, is that attached to your back? Can you not move? And then I saw him moving, and I was like, did he just like detach it? I'm confused. Like I need to know the mechanics how that works. Yeah.
But you know, I mean, I think by the end of the show, a lot of them are just very OP'd. They could have taken her, I think, easily. Plus the giant butts, which we didn't even talk about the butts. Probably the silliest thing the show ever did with the
I think it's for the best.
Oh, it was funny. I do think it got a little old after a while, but it's fine.
it definitely got old. Like the first arc in the beginning, I was like all for it, and then when we started bringing it back towards the later half of the season, I was just like, can we just drop this?
Yeah, it felt like two completely separate like I thought there was gonna be a thing where like they were gonna bite a Mortis or whatever, and we just like she would turn into a powered butt or something.
I thought it was gonna happen.
Yeah, it was all right. They join together and they make a band. I guess that's fine.
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Do you have like just as far as like your like history with the show? Do you have like favorite moments from the show, or just kind of like favorite characters that you would like to talk about?
Danny the Street.
Danny.
Just like that entire concept was incredible. Loved it. Easily was responsible for like one of the best episodes ever in season 1.
Yeah.
Jane, I mentioned earlier, is easily my favorite character.
Jane's great.
Flex Mentalo is a character that is responsible for single-handedly the most memeable moment in Doom Patrol history.
Yeah.
The most memeable moment in Doom Patrol history. The clip that got the show viral on Twitter in the first place, because not many people were watching it in the beginning. And that was the clip that made everyone be like, what in the hell is happening over there?
Oh no, I mean that was the first moment. I think that's a real first moment. I was like, this show is unhinged. This show is
100%.
insane, and they just
Yep.
keep going uphill. There's a part of me that just wants to start sharing like Doom Patrol clips on Twitter because I think so many would just go viral. Like just all the
100%.
butt stuff this season, would go massively viral. I share a couple of times. I've shared the like cliff fighting Jesus scene on Twitter. It's so funny. It's so like out of context. It's like, what the hell is this show?
It's so incredible out of context. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
This show is literally the perfect match for it to be a cult classic. Like,
Oh yeah.
this is totally going to be a cult classic years down the line.
Mm-hmm. And I think it is a shame because it should have been a hit. Like, there's no reason it shouldn't have been like The Boys or like You're Invincible or like those type of shows or like Peacemaker, where everyone is watching, everyone's talking about it. It's just it has all the qualities to do so. It just didn't get the right push. Like if this was made by like Netflix, it's a masterpiece. I think everyone would be watching it.
I think it could have. I think it also doesn't help the fact that there have been moments where it was a little too goofy that it probably lost some people.
Sure, yeah.
I think definitely once you bring in that very over the top comic book element to it,
Yeah.
because a lot of comic book stuff, they very much try to tone it down to be consumed by mass audiences. But the fact that Doom Patrol was just flat out like, no, we're not doing that. I think that kind of scared and intimidated a lot of people away. So I think right off the bat, it kind of scared some people from even like touching it.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, we have definitely had people on here that have said they don't like the show because it's just too goofy and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's fair. Like, this isn't a show that is going to be like for everyone. It's very like Legends of Tomorrow. But like, even I don't think Legends would have worked if it wasn't like already part of a world. Like, if it didn't have the fan bases from like Flash and Arrow and stuff, I'm not sure how many people would have actually watched that show.
That I probably agree with. I think Legends definitely did benefit from being part of a pre-existing universe.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it definitely used it to their advantage, where it originally was part of a bigger universe, but then eventually got big enough for it to take care of its own.
Yeah, 100%. And then it appeared in Crisis, so I guess it's kind of part of a different world, a larger world.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where we're gonna be wrapping things up. I think my favorite character was Vic. I really liked Vic. And then my favorite moment was probably Larry's song in season 1. I think the like Larry episode or the Danny episode, perfect episode of like TV.
Amazing. Amazing.
Perfect. Yeah. But with that being said, Adriel, we're gonna be wrapping up our stream here. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with me for a while. This was a blast talking about Doom Patrol. An amazing show, kind of the end of a DC TV era. Like, we still got Superman Lois coming up, which will be the official end, but like this is kind of the end of like the live action DC Universe shows. All of them kind of wrapped up recently. Yeah, it's crazy that we're at the end of an era like this.
Right. There's so many ends of eras that we've been witnessing in the span of like 3 years. And I'm kind of getting over it.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, this year alone, like, we did a stream like this for Flash and for Titans, and it's like so many are ending and wrapping up. It's like it kind of hurts my heart that we're heading into, like, again, a new era, which again I think could be a really good era, but it's sad to say goodbye to the era that we currently have. But Adriel, where can people find you? Where are you located?
I am pretty much on every podcast platform ever at Problematic Behavior. we have a TikTok and an Instagram, so like we kind of post clips of our podcast on there at Problematic Behavior. I do have a Letterboxd account, Age Real the Author, serialized account, Age Real the Author. It's just there's a whole link tree on it that's very easy to navigate. So
Yes. His podcast link is down below, so if you guys want to go check it out, 5-star that thing. It's a great podcast. And as always, it's really fun to talk with you. As far as my stuff, next week we actually have 2 pipeline episodes coming out. It's towards the end of the year. We want to do some fun like end of the year type streams. First one being Monday and the second one being Thursday. Very excited for that. And tonight, I'm going to be back over on Council of Creators for a very special stream that Chainsaw's doing this week with Joshua Fine. He worked on like Earth's Mightiest Heroes and like Spectacular Spider-Man and a lot of fun stuff. So if you guys are a fan of that era of Marvel, go check it out. Some fun stuff ahead. 9:00 tonight. So if you guys are a fan of all that stuff, go check it out. But without further ado, Adriel, hell yeah. But without further ado, thank you so much for coming on. And I will see y'all on the flip side. Bye-bye.
goodbye.